Okay, say it with me. 2023 was one of the best years for video games ever. That is, as long as you put aside the enormous layoff waves that made it one of the most destructive years for the industry ever, too. And I mentioned that up top in a standard top 10 year-end list video because I want you to remember something while you watch this. All of the great games we're highlighting here would not be possible without the dedicated, creative human beings that make complex works of interactive art for us to enjoy. And so we're here to celebrate the best video games those people gave us in 2023. Hi, I'm Giovanni Colantonio, the gaming section lead at Digital Trends, and I'm here with our top 10 games of 2023. And let me tell you, that was no easy task this year. There was no shortage of amazing games in 2023 that we were completely passionate about. So much so that I think we could have probably made a competitive top 50 list with our picks. From universe-spanning open-world games to deeply personal indies, this year gave us an incredibly wide range of emotional experiences that we won't soon forget. So what did make the cut then? Probably a few things that you're expecting, but maybe a few that you're not. So let's get into it. At number 10, we have Humanity. This unique puzzle game is a lot more than meets the eye. At first, it probably looks pretty simple. You've got crowds of tiny people aimlessly wandering around, and it's your job, as a Shiba Inu, to direct them to where they need to go by placing down commands. That's simple enough, right? Well, there's a little bit more to it than that. Humanity explores all the incredible, complex things that humans can accomplish when they come together and work as one. And it almost gets into the flip side of that, as its back half almost turns into a harrowing war strategy game when those people learn about weapons. It's a weird and wonderful piece of art that perfectly captures all of humankind's eccentricities. And not only that, it's hands down the best PlayStation VR 2 game that you can get right now. At number 9, it's Street Fighter 6. You know, I always get a little bummed out when end-of-year season rolls around and excellent genre games like this just don't get their flowers. And I feel that with Street Fighter 6 especially because it's not just a great fighting game. It's the total package all around. That's largely thanks to its excellent single-player World Tour mode, which is the most effective fighting game tutorial ever made. As someone who's terrible at the genre, it taught me an entirely new skill set that's brought me into the joy of competitive fighting games. And it works hard to do that with its approachable modern control system and lots of accessibility considerations. Add that in with an ultra-stylish art style and reversal-based action that's a blast to watch, and you have an all-time great in Street Fighter 6. Now here's one you may not have heard of. Our number 8 game is Chants of Sennaar. This terrific deduction game turns language into puzzles. You're dropped into a mysterious tower in the desert full of people who only speak in foreign languages. It's up to you to decode different words using context clues. So if you see a door with a lever next to it and some symbols explaining what it does, you may start to put together the words for door, or open, or close. It's a brilliant concept for a game, and it's the closest I've ever seen a game get to capturing the deduction highs of Return of the Obra Dinn. It'll make you realize all the little ways we universally communicate with one another, even when we don't speak the same language. Another great indie on our list is Venba at number 7. Now, this game is only 2 hours long, but I dare you to find something that uses every second of its runtime as well as this does. Venba tells the story of a South Indian family that immigrates to Canada. The homesick mother of that family, Venba, wants to make sure that her son Kavin doesn't lose his Tamil heritage. That tension plays out in cooking minigames that have players learning authentic South Indian recipes from a faded family cookbook. Now that, paired with some personal visual novel storytelling, makes for a beautiful and succinct celebration of Tamil culture with something universal to say about holding on to your heritage. Okay, now here comes some heavy hitters. At number 6, we've got Alan Wake 2. Now, Remedy Interactive has always been a bold video game studio with a unique creative vision, but Alan Wake 2 takes everything it's ever done to the next level. What starts as a standard survival horror game, inspired by the recent Resident Evil remakes, soon becomes an oddball odyssey about characters escaping their own personal hells and the very nature of horror. Not only that, but it really pays off the idea of Remedy's shared universe, folding in references to games like Control that'll reward anyone who wants to piece together the studio's wider world. It's a truly one-of-a-kind game that'll stick in your gut for years to come. Getting into our top 5, we have Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Now, this is another game that feels like a culmination of one studio's grand vision. Insomniac has always created memorable experiences that deliver both meaty storytelling and pure fun, and Spider-Man 2 takes that to new heights. Now sure, it's an absolute blast thanks to more furious combat and even smoother traversal, but it also tells a rich story about two stressed out heroes trying to balance their busy lives. And that story is told through equally busy open-world gameplay that's always pulling you in multiple directions at once. It's the perfect match of narrative and genre. And it helps that it has the best iteration of Venom we've probably ever seen outside of comic books too. At number 4, it's Super Mario Bros. Wonder! Now, when I first saw this game, I wasn't expecting much. I love Mario games, but the 2D series has been a little stagnant in recent years. Wonder totally blew away those low expectations by delivering a colorful and transformative adventure that makes Mario surprising again. That's mostly thanks to its namesake Wonder system, which makes every level unpredictable. 1 minute you're part of a piranha plant musical, and the next you're turned into a Goomba and forced to hide from enemies in a sudden stealth mission. All of that combines with airtight platforming and a vibrant visual refresh to make for the best 2D Mario game since the plumber's Super Nintendo days. At number 3, it's a fantastic, generation-defining game from Bethesda. And of course, I'm talking about Hi-Fi Rush. Oh, you thought I was going to say Starfield? Look, when we polled our writers, we found that Hi-Fi Rush was universally beloved among the team. And look, it's easy to see why. Tango Gameworks created a stylish, inventive, rhythm action game here that feels like something you would have played on the Nintendo GameCube. It's fresh, it's funny, it includes an excellent soundtrack of mid-2000s jams that capture the exuberant spirit of rock and roll. In a time when it's so easy to curl up in a ball in despair, which I do a lot, it's the high-spirited rebellion that I think all of us could use right now. Okay, at this point, you've probably figured out our top 2. So I guess the drama is more about which one came out on top. So just pretend to be surprised when we get to the number 1 spot, because our number 2 pick is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. No game this year has sparked our imaginations more than this one. The powerful Ultra Hand building system turns a familiar Hyrule into a massive sandbox of potential. We've seen people build everything from steam engines to enormous mechs. There's no shortage of creative ways that you can solve shrine puzzles or beat mainline quests. I even sequence broke the entire thing by building an airship and flying it onto a far-off island like 30 hours before I was supposed to get there. Tears of the Kingdom feels limitless, and while I love it right now, I'm even more excited to see what kind of creations people make from it years from now. Alright, here it is. Our number 1 pick is The Sopranos: Road to Respect for the PlayStation 2. Just keeping you on your toes, our 2023 Game of the Year is, of course, Baldur's Gate 3. Now, we actually went back and forth on this a lot, debating between this and Zelda for our number 1 slot, because they both actually have very similar strengths. Like Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3 gives players an incredible amount of freedom thanks to its deep RPG systems. You can break into a castle by stacking a ladder of boxes outside of it, or beat a boss by simply shoving it into a hole. One of our writers actually beat the entire game an act early by nuking the whole world. Now, what's so amazing about Baldur's Gate 3 is that your playthrough will feel like yours. It's a distinct adventure that you shaped with your decisions. It's an incredible feat for Larian Studios, and enough to make Baldur's Gate 3 our Game of the Year. And since there were so many great games, I want to very quickly shout out a few that just barely missed our top 10. You can call them very honorable mentions, if you will. El Paso Elsewhere is a daring ode to Max Payne filled with slow-mo shootouts and an absolutely wild hip-hop soundtrack that you need to hear. But we especially love it for its raw, emotional story that deals with relationship trauma, drug abuse, and more. The Making of Karateka is an ingenious playable documentary about Prince of Persia creator Jordan Mechner's 1984 PC classic, Karateka. Not only is it a great preservation project, but it's also a great document of how feedback and criticism makes art better. Videoverse is my personal favorite game of the year. It's a visual novel set in a slowly deteriorating social media app modeled after the Wii U's Miiverse. And let me tell you, it'll hit pretty close to home for anyone who doesn't love the new direction that Twitter went in this year. And finally, Capcom's Resident Evil 4 remake just barely missed our top 10, but it deserves a major shout out here. Kudos to the team for finding a way to reimagine one of the best horror games of all time as a modern action classic that's entirely its own beast. Now, I'm sure all of you agree with this list entirely, and we can all go home happy, right? Again, I'm just keeping you on your toes there. Now, I'm sure every single person here has different thoughts because that's just how many fantastic games have released this year. We've told you our favorites, so now it's your turn. Let us know what you loved in the comments below.